Ready,
Very good, very good. Yeah, your topic is very relevant for a
right?
lot
I
of
think people will love it,
yeah,
especially
but
because when I blend it with my own personal experience with it as well, right? So it's like
correct.
real observations. Yeah,
Yeah.
with my own burnout.
She's gone.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you, Dr. Sunny.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can. Yes.
Very good.
Wait, let me change my name. I see my name is wrong. Hang on. How do I change? Oh, there we go. Rename. We shouldn't say that. Say Yvette Rose. Oh my goodness. There we go. That's better.
No.
Hi, Aishwarya. Good morning.
Morning, Evan. How are you?
I am good, and you?
I'm really,
Stressed.
really
I
good.
just finished my workshop and now I went to this conference and I'm like, and I wanted to make a few last minute changes. And I'm like, and I'm like, oh my
You
God, I'm talking about anxiety and burnout. I need to, practice what I preach. Oh my God.
no, you don't need
What a
to.
contradiction.
You don't need to panic.
No, no,
Good.
I'm
You're
not
good.
We'll be
panic. I'm so
starting on
relaxed right now, Dr. Sunny. I'm so relaxed.
you're very good. You're starting on good.
You're breaking up a lot, Dr. Sunny.
I think he's traveling somewhere,
I
probably.
know we're on the
He's
move.
always busy,
Uh,
always on the move. But I'll see you in June. Bruno, I'll see you in April.
yes.
I'll be in April there for a workshop, so I'll come say hi to you. I'm
Okay.
teaching a conference. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This one. No, this one. Continue. Yes. Oh.
Just play
Dr.
the
Sunny, he's so
music,
funny.
and we'll be just starting within 10 minutes. So first, I'll introduce Dr. Sunny Evett. So he'll give a quick introduction to everybody, and then I'll introduce you. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. I'm just playing the music now. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Just the music.
My first
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Can we please turn on the camera if that is possible? Thank you, Evid. Hi, Urvashi. Hi, Janet. Okay, more people coming in. Selena, how are you, Selena?
I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, I'm good. Thank you for replying. Hello, Octavia, morning. Hello, Dr. Sunny, always on move. Okay, Shweka is here. Finally, people are coming in. Okay, more people coming in now. Hi, Shweka, good morning. good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are.
Hello, hi. Yeah, good evening. It's nearly 4 p.m.
Yeah,
nearly in
yes,
Dhaka. Yeah. How are
yes.
you,
I'm,
everyone?
I'm, I'm very well. I'm very well. Thank you for coming, Ashweka.
Thank you.
All right, so let's just begin since I guess everybody's here. People are coming in now. Okay, so welcome to an innovative journey of freedom and success. My dear visionaries, entrepreneurs, and change makers, are you ready to take charge of your future and unlock the new opportunities in 2025? So, today we invite you to step into a world where you can just own your business, reduce expenses, and create the life you desire. So, what do we have in today? We'll be discovering smart strategies to reduce your household bills, learning how to cut down business expenses and maximizing profits, gaining insights into overcoming anxiety and burnout as an entrepreneur. So, topic for the week is entrepreneurial mindset beating anxiety and burnout. And for today, we have a special guest speaker, Dr. Everett Rose. But before that, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure that we are inviting a true visionary and innovator to the stage, Dr. Sania Honse. As the CEO and founder of the School of Financial Medicine, Dr. Sunny has dedicated his life to revolutionize healthcare by making it more accessible. Your destination will be on left. Okay, thank you. Accessible, affordable, and technology driven. His expertise in integrative medicine, business development, and cutting edge healthcare solutions has transformed countless lives worldwide. Dr. Sunny is not just a leader in holistic health, but also a mentor,
I'm sure you can pull over in
entrepreneur,
there.
and a driving force in bridging the conventional and alternative medicine. His insights and contributions continue to shape the future of healthcare, empowering individuals and businesses alike. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Sunny Onse. Over to you, Dr. Sunny.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I think what I'm going to do, because I'm always on the move, I'm going to allow Dr. Iveta to speak first about the burnout. And that will allow me to readjust and refocus in terms of what we are going to be discussing this morning. And back to you, Aish, to introduce our Iveta.
Okay, perfect. So we've got the main guest today, ladies and gentlemen, and my absolute honor for a remarkable individual whose work has transformed the lives of countless people worldwide, Dr. Everett Rose. And as a counselor, PhD, MBA, and author of 19 books, Dr. Everett is a true pioneer in the fields of trauma recovery, psychosomatics, and integrative healing. She is the founder of metapsychology coaching, metaphysical anatomy technique, and integrative soulful therapy. These are all the powerful methodologies that help people, individuals break free from past trauma and emotional blockages. Her groundbreaking book, Metaphysical Anatomy Volume 1, it explores these 722 medical ailments and she suppressed emotions behind them, making it an essential resource for those who are seeking the deeper healing. She has also made a significant impact with psychosomatics of children, which uncovers these psychosomatic patterns in children's health conditions. Wow. And not just here, as a YouTuber, podcaster, and speaker, Dr. Evita continues to inspire, educate, and empower people on their journeys to emotional freedom. Freedom, and freedom. Yes, emotional freedom and holistic well being. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Evett Rose. Over to you, Dr. Evett.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction, Aishwarya, and also Dr. Sunny. Thank you so much for having me. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ever it is that you are. I hope that you are excited, that you're thrilled, that you're happy. I am so happy to be here with you as well today. And thank you for spending your Saturday with me. I think if we have the time differences right, it's still Saturday. So for some of you who's maybe in America, it might be Friday. If you're maybe in Vanuatu, it might be leaning already towards Sunday. So I'm so excited to be here with you. So what Aishwarya already touched on, this big book that I wrote, and what's really interesting about this big book, as much as it is part of my biggest success, it was also part of my greatest burnout, my greatest anxiety. So we are going to talk a little bit today about burnout, anxiety, whether you are a professional entrepreneur, whether you are incredibly passionate student, maybe you're still studying and you're studying too hard, too much, and you're finding yourself just in a really bad place where you're just always tired. And even though you feel like you still have that it's almost like you're running on fumes. Who can relate to that? You feel like you're running on fumes and somehow you just want to keep going, but your body feels incredibly exhausted and tired. So I'm going to share my screen here with you. Oh, can you quickly, I'm sending a request there so that I can share my screen. Make sure that we can do that now. Yes, we can. Okay, great. So let's start sharing. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for that ability. Hang on. Now I need to make it so that it perfectly fits the screen. All right. Bear with me, everyone. You're doing great. We're almost there. Almost there. There we go. Fantastic. Fantastic. So all ready. So welcome to the school here. I'm really excited. And my name is Yvette Rose, as I have been introduced. So let's dive into entrepreneurs who succeed from pressure. Now, this is something that I personally have been through myself. As I said, I wrote this book. I interviewed over 7,000 people while I was writing that book. I traveled to 43 countries teaching and speaking. There was a time where I was in a country every week. I was chronically jet lagged. I was chronically exhausted. And somehow, despite all of the exhaustion, despite the stress that I was going through, the brain fog, the fatigue, there was always this spark, like this fire in me that just kept saying, go, 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 let's do this, let's go. It's almost like you start to thrive off of the anxiety that you get. It's almost like we start to use that as gasoline. Now, why is it that we use this stress, which is a little bit different to stress that you would experience after a traumatic event? Now, what am I talking about? You see, entrepreneurs who succeed from pressure, they are prone to face negative consequences regarding their drive. And this is called eustress, right? Or also known as positive stress. Now, this type of stress is not bad. I mean, it's key to motivation and achievement. And also, for example, when you look at Shepard and others, their research, positive stress actually turned out to be a dangerous combination when left unchecked by generating anxiety and obsessions at work and then leading to professional burnout. Now, when we look also at Gong and Geerthuis's research that they did in 2023, quite recent actually, that also actually showed us that top performers, they face challenges maintaining an equilibrium since they put their health behind their drive for success. Now, what's really interesting is when I also noticed, when you look at people who are and becoming successful, a lot of them have all the money in the world. It's almost like, well, you have what you were looking for, but somehow they can't stop. They keep going, and they keep going, right? So when we start to look now at these anxious perfectionists, right? They work beyond regular hours because of their drive. And this is making a disconnect within them. And it's causing a lot of challenges to rest. Now, when we also look at Shepard and others, now they also explain that high performers, for example, like athletes, they feel that their success actually requires this continuous work because they worry about failure when they pause their activities, not stop, but just pause to rest, right? So you see these competitive cycles, they produce exhaustion across the physical and also mental areas. And today's presentation is really going to dive deep into and examine how high performers actually benefit from eustress, but then face connected risk also according to psychological analysis and in modern times. Now, after analyzing how stress patterns work, we can establish sound methods to start to really handle stress a lot better. And moving forward, we must also understand the fundamental concepts of eustress and its significance to this topic. So when we look at people who experience eustress as a helpful form of stress, right? Now that drives them to focus better and it increases their drive and the emotional strength. And studies done by Rutledge and others also show that the positive effects of eustress differentiate this stress from distress, because eustress helps people to move beyond their limitations, right? While reaching the targets. And again, Anjum and others, they now hint also that entrepreneurs typically use eustress to execute their work efficiently and then maintain their market advantages. Now, evaluations have also determined that, for example, persistent substance contact causes mental exhaustion. Using stress builds performance. Using stress builds performance, but heavy dependence on it also leads to exhaustion. And what happens now is that during stressful periods, cortisol, adrenaline, we know these stress hormones, right? We're all familiar with that. They start to emerge from the brain functions to accelerate temporary performance, while persistent activation now also actually demonstrates dangerous consequences, according to Anjum and others. Now, what happens is that business owners should acquire stress management techniques that can help them to utilize stress effectively, yet also maintain control over its grip. But now the following section will also analyze the negative aspects of eustress that develop into anxiety symptoms and perfectionist tendencies before causing burnout. So this is now the dark side of eustress, right? So the process of eustress is pushing someone towards success, ultimately now negatively impacts a person's mental and physical dimensions. Now, research also by Gong and Geertes, that also is now showing this long-term stress effects and how it's affecting the brain operations, elevating nervousness, and also weakening adaptive coping abilities. Now what happens is that entrepreneurs, they repeatedly surpass boundaries because they view all these efforts, right, as the key to development. Now, in studies, for example, done by Shepard and others, it is reported that people who maintain this mindset, they develop destructive working behaviors, resulting in burnout and then diminished creative output. Now, so when we look at the combination of perfectionist behavior, right, it leads people to set sky high bars, right, resulting in what? Resulting in self-doubt. And then upon failing, right, meeting these standards, their own standards. Now, when time starts to pass, feelings of emptiness starts to come in, right, when they start to accomplish primary life goals. But now what happens is that burnout is two distinct types of fatigue that degrade our mental and physical capabilities, and it also reduces decision quality, as well as also productivity. Now, warning signs also exist that require immediate identification, but after this discussion, we will also review the factors that drive entrepreneurs to neglect self-care while chasing their targets. So when we look at these visible indicators of entrepreneurial balance problems, right? So the pursuit of success, it makes entrepreneurs typically just put their personal accomplishments aside, right? I've done that many times, and I'm sure that some of you can probably relate to that as well, right? So these entrepreneurs, these people, their powerful motivation to succeed, right? It develops because of their fundamental core concerns about letdowns and losing that steering capacity. And now high performance, according to studies by Rutland and others, they enact also self-propelling work behaviors resulting from their anxiety and the need to also achieve perfection. And people struggle with guilt during these rest periods, which they mistake for unproductive use of their time, according to Shepard and others. So when we look at these masculine cultural norms, right, it maintains this perspective because of societal celebrations of this non-stop work trend. It's almost like it's glorified. So when we look at this inability of many entrepreneurs to delegate tasks, arises from their concern that giving up control will result in diminished results. Now, work-related pressure overwhelms schedules, which now does what? It results in persistent stress being experienced. And according to studies from Rutland, right? When people lack balance, their mental and physical condition starts to worsen, creating conditions for burnout. So you see, entrepreneurs must redefine their approach to productivity to enjoy equal success with their well-being and also their business achievements for their sustainability. And now in this section will first also now start to unveil the psychological elements that drive high performance anxiety together with their mechanisms for developing excessive work behavior. Okay. So let's have a look at some psychological factors of anxiety. So almost all high-performing entrepreneurs, they work in their business and they are highly affected also by anxiety, right? There's financial threats, market competition, and also entrepreneurship. They set goals that are continuous sources of stress, as per also reported by Bionirtova, Vasco, and others, and Anjum as well. And this just confirms now in their research that these high performers, they create unattainable targets that's now frequently and also doubt themselves once they do not hit and reach these goals, right? So when people use these social comparison methods now to start to evaluate how much they have achieved or compared to others, they become what? More stressed, right? So when we look at this research, according to this prolonged exposure to anxiety, also has a scientific study that's actually showing that it changes the neural processes of the brain. And this then leads to an increased risk of burnout as well as emotional fatigue. And this process now also leads to the development of repetitive work patterns so that entrepreneurs cannot disconnect just like that from work, right? It is a contradictory situation for these entrepreneurs as their work is now always needed. So as fulfilling their goals results in unfulfilled needs that they must work even harder to be met. So these fundamental psychological elements that operate to break this cycle of stress and need to be recognized by entrepreneurs, also as explained by this research. So this part then dives into the symptoms now of burnout, particularly survivor symptoms of prolonged anxiety, of stress, of entrepreneurial professionalism. So let's have a look what it says. So burnout symptoms in entrepreneurs. Now, this prolonged stress from anxiety, it leads to the development of severe burnout conditions. And the signs of burnout also include enduring fatigue, alongside a lack of motivation and increased also irritability, according to Shepard and others. Now, in a different study also done by Gong and Geerthuis, these high performers who experience burnout develop also a loss of focus and diminished productivity, resulting in a reduced performance span over time. And the exhaustion now of emotional resources causes entrepreneurs to develop physical alerts that include sleep problems, tension headaches, and immune system vulnerabilities, right? So when we look at these high achieving individuals, typically start to fail to understand their warning signs because they insist in carrying on. Now, when we look at Shepard's research, for example, he continues to hint that this delaying burnout treatment leads to lasting damage as people can actually develop depressive disorders together with cardiovascular disease. I repeat, together with cardiovascular disease. And I repeated that because I'm planting a seed in the back of your mind because I'm going to circle back to that in a minute. So when we look at Shepard and others, right, they continue also to explain that professionals can assist with the recovery when people really quickly can start to identify these symptoms and don't leave it lingering for too long. So now the following section is going to evaluate these methods to handling eustress effectively while business owners can maintain their advantages against these burnout pitfalls. All right. So when we look at managing this, prevention of these harmful eustress, it really truly requires entrepreneurs to take control of their well-being. And research is also showing that entrepreneurs, they need to redefine their work-life separation to avoid stress becoming a chronic problem. Now, mental health initiatives, also including scheduled rest, active pursuits, anxiety reduction, and lead to better emphasis on tasks as well. And research also demonstrates that entrepreneurs should implement structured self-care practices, including mindfulness and appropriate sleep strategies. Now, according also to Anjun, pursuing mentorship and also professional assistance, it really truly can create a long-term career benefit. And additionally, studies by Anjun and others actually show that high performers must include relaxation practices in their daily activities to prioritize their mental rest, right? You're not going to get rest if we don't prioritize it. So it's an active, conscious decision that needs to be made and done with purpose and with intent. So when proactive stress management also becomes essential because it prevents stress from transitioning to distress, thus hurting both psychological and physical well-being as well. So through their efforts, entrepreneurs who implement these strategies, they actually will maintain their success and they will maintain their personal well-being. And the following section that we're now going to look at is going to present functional strategies that create work habits that stop burnout and to help maintain performance durability. So when we look now at developing these healthy work habits, so these healthy routines at work are crucially dependent on our professional success and also on our personal wellness. Now, as also explained in works of the research that has been done by Vienortova Vascu, business owners should also create a plan comprising reachable targets that they can also reach with their capabilities and also their resources already that is in place. And so now when we, for example, here look at these high pressure, right? High pressure requires that the work schedule remains open due to reduced productivity and also increased risk of burnout. Now, what happens is this continuous productive advancement is also achieved if effective time judgments and also proper work sequences, right, when they're combined. Now, entrepreneurs also divide their work among people. And that, to me, that's effective leadership. However, the strategic delegation of responsibility, it enables entrepreneurs to achieve critical and organizational objectives, which can then otherwise become buried under the general management challenges. And the relationship that was tackled turned out to be one of teamwork, which runs at high speed in business operations and also does away with a lot of professional anxiety. Now, research also hints that understanding that no achievements are ever perfect, right? It allows, it really truly allows a person to maintain our mental health. So having the ability to do so as well. But now, entrepreneurs, they continue to have a strong motivation for entrepreneurship, since they also have to realize that their achievements, despite being small. Now, if people progress in their work according to the measure, they gain mental strength and then retain the objective, conscious awareness of their activities as well. And so when we look at cultivating this work-life balance, right, there's an adequate balance between professional and personal life. It's essential to retain workers' workplace efficiency as well and mental health well-being. Because when we look at business owners, they must participate also in leisure activities outside the workplace to maintain mental recovery and also creativity, right? So these activities are needed to cope with tension so employees can actually stay productive. And also, as Anjun and others pointed out, right? So the amount of the value of other factors also depends on having strong personal relationships and quality time with their friends and family. This is incredibly necessary to give entrepreneurs emotional support during their stressful business periods. So entrepreneurs also learn how to better understand their business better by creating these social connections as well that can help them to know and understand these various ways of seeing life and also their work. So people began practicing this mindfulness and mindful deep breathing techniques as well to control their stress levels, which also proved incredibly successful. We also know that meditative and deep breathing techniques have become crucial in achieving actually mental serenity, attention span, and also making wiser decisions. So when we look, for example, at Anjum, right, they explain that removing ourselves from work is possible. And energy conservation is accomplished by stopping exhaustion that causes and what's the English word? It just escaped me. That almost like decelerates. There we go. That decelerates daily productivity. So regular sleep, it's necessary to have proper emotional balance. We all know that. You know what you're like when you don't sleep well and then what you're like the next day. You're grumpy, you're irritated, right? So entrepreneurs must increase their chance of business success if they get the right amount of rest. That is exactly what will happen because it produces resilient managers who then make clear decisions and then who also have confident managers who face business challenges. So when we start to look just at the conclusion of this, right? So eustress can be absolutely essential to a growing new company. New startups, whether you're studying, maybe you're very passionate about a project and you want to get it done. However, the founders must also manage its scale, right? So moderate stress does not destroy mental and physical wellness during burnout when stress becomes too intense. Therefore, entrepreneurs must really truly start to determine what stress level is productive and what is not, right? So under anxiety stress, people form such a negative workplace pattern of excessive work, routines, neglect of the self that devalue also their health. And then also the absence of dealing with this illness will produce burnout symptoms as well, causing reduced efficiency and also severe health complications. And what you see also is that long-term business success, it requires entrepreneurs to start to match their living needs to their work endeavors as well. So if successful entrepreneurs follow up on specific stress management techniques, take proper work-life balance measures, and then adopt self-care programs, they will be productive and happy for an extended period. And also in protecting the employees, mental health benefits also help the organizational businesses. And better strategic choices can also lead to the generation of innovation and the provision of success, and also the sustainability for well-balanced entrepreneurs. Now, that is what research shows. What I'm going to share with you now is my personal experience with eustress. I consider myself as a top high performer, and I still do to this day. However, just before I was 30 years old, just before I was shy from being 30, I found myself lying in a hospital bed. I had a heart attack. And this was in a third world country, and the doctor walked in, he threw a white box of pills on my bed, and he said, "You don't have a heart problem, Yvette, you have a goddamn stress problem." Just like that. That was my client briefing, right? And he walked out. And just before he got to the door, he turned around again and he said, "Oh, by the way, you had broken heart syndrome. It's a stress-induced heart attack." And then he walked out. And I never saw him again. Let me tell you, for a whole week, I was physically weak. I was discharged that day. I was so weak and I was so out of breath for a whole week. And let me tell you, when you experience a situation that you can see, it was given to me on a silver platter. It was stress. I nearly died because of stress. I nearly died because of strong, powerful emotions that I did not control well. Well, I thought I did, but my body said, "No, you failed. You completely failed." I had to go back to the drawing board. Back then, at that time, I was already into counseling. I was, helping people living their best lives. I thought I was living my best life. I had a beautiful mansion on a tropical island, traveled the world. I had everything that you could think of. And you know what I realized and I had the heart attack when I was in the car and I collapsed forward. And in that moment, when you negotiate with God for your life, let me tell you what came into perspective for me. Everything that I just accomplished, if I died that day, would not go with me to where I'm going. And this was a big wake-up call for me to evaluate and realize, but I need to change my life and live a life where what I want and the path towards it is not going to cost me my life. And one of the first things that I had to look at was my mindset, my relationship with eustress, my relationship with my limitations and my thresholds, and my relationship with my boundaries, with myself, not others, but with myself. I loved eustress. I felt like I was high on drugs. I loved the cortisol, the adrenaline. It's go, go, go. I'm tired. Screw the tiredness. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep working because I'm thriving off of this eustress. I'm thriving off of the anxiety. Instead of feeling anxious and put down, I thought stress is great. I loved it. And research also shows that if you have a positive relationship with stress, meaning you have a positive approach to it, it can actually be good for you. But what the research also failed to focus on is how long you stay in that place of drawing your motivation from eustress. Eustress became a lifestyle for me. It wasn't just bursts and spats and moments where I dived into it and used it to help me to move forward in my career. It became a lifestyle. I woke up with it. I went to bed with it. If I ever went to bed, because my insomnia was incredible. And it shows that eustress can damage the body's organs, predominantly so your heart. Your heart. Broken heart syndrome is a medical journal condition that's not actually a medical condition. It's a psychosomatic condition. It's stress related. It's related to emotions. And being a counselor, I actually started to counsel myself because I realized that I'm the one living my life. I can go to someone else to help me, but I'm going to be ultimately the one that's going to have to make the changes, who's going to say stop, who's going to say yes, who's going to say no to this schedule and to that opportunity and to that project. It's me. And when I revisited that relationship that I had with eustress, when I really dig down into my own psychology, there's a lot more to say about eustress and how successful people become successful. You see, I had a very, very traumatic relationship with my father. So he was a clinically diagnosed sociopath. He was a drug addict and he was an alcoholic. And I was also the only child. He was a mentally, verbal, and physically violent man. So I grew up in a very high anxiety home environment where there was a lot of domestic violence. So my nervous system from a very young age was wired to almost handle, to be able to process this high level of anxiety. So my threshold for what would be anxiously stressful might be nothing, whereas for an average person, it might put them in a burnout within 24 hours. Now, despite that threshold, it doesn't mean that I'm able to maintain that for long periods of time. When I really, truly had to go and find, well, what is the switch? I understand it's my nervous system. I understand it's my ability and my wiring, right? How the mind and the body communicates and the associated preconditioned programs that I brought with me from my childhood into my adult life. What is the switch? What do I do with this? How do I cope with this? Do I cope with it or can I resolve it? Is this going to be with me for the rest of my life? Or am I going to find a solution for this? Because I didn't have a personal life. My relationship at the time was falling apart. My health was falling apart. I didn't have friends. God, I didn't have time to have friends, right? I was always on the go. And when I realized, when I finally sat still, when I started to create more silence within me, my driving force behind my eustress was my anger towards my father and my fear of him saying to me, look, you failed. I did everything in my power to prove to him that I will succeed because he told me, you will wipe the vomit off the floors in the bar where I drink. That was his words to me when I was 12. And it stayed with me. And I spent the rest of my life to prove him wrong. And I used my anger, I used my injustice, I used my frustration combined with this eustress. And this continued to stay my motivating factor to keep going. When I felt tired, I'm like, no, I'm going to keep going. I will not prove him right. And I made a huge success of my life. But now here's the problem. I was in a heart attack in a hospital. You can't maintain that level of success when you're almost nearly died. How do you maintain that success? I had to reevaluate the foundation of my success. And that was not my habits. It was my mindset. And it's also the emotions within me that drove, that activated, that fueled this eustress. So I figured out and developed a powerful plan where I finally decided that, well, who cares if I fail? Who cares if things go wrong? And I realized that my foundation of success needed to be built on the fact that I'm worthy of it and that it can be easy to maintain it. So I'm squashing years of a life journey into a few minutes, but that's the short end of it. And how I started to cultivate a life where I can now maintain my success and be comfortable was to pull that thorn out of my side. And that was that enraging anger that I had towards my father and my fear of proving him right if I did fail. When I resolved that, it's like it was like the dominoes effect. Everything just beautifully fell into place. And of course, I had a beautiful, wonderful psychologist that also supported me through that process. And it was an absolute willingness to change. Because when you rub shoulders with death, let me tell you, you will never look at your life, at emotions, at money, at success ever the same again. Never. And I said yes to life, and I said no to that toxic cycle of success. And there you have it. That is my story behind burnout. And I do hope that you enjoyed today's presentation and that it was helpful for you, that you had some aha moments, that there were a few things that struck maybe a chord, made you think a little bit deeper. Because let me tell you, after working with 7,000 people one-on-one, there's a lot more behind burnout than what research shows. It's an emotional problem. It's not a habitual problem. Habitual problem is a symptom. Thank you, Dr. Sunny. You look fabulous in your suit.
Wow. What an amazing life lesson. Amazing support that you're giving to many of us today on this particular platform, Dr. Iveta. I think we're going to leave the floor open for people to have maybe one or two questions, because a lot of the things that you discuss are relatable to the way we are and the way we feel. And what is actually more poignant with the point that you raised is how we speak to our own children, right? I'm sure a lot of us have picked up. Majority of us here are parents, or they're going to be parents in the near future. So what we say to our children is also important, right? Vitally important. And a lot of people are suffering, yes, from emotional disease rather than pathogenic condition, right? It's not about pathogen, it's about emotional situation, conditions. So thank you very much. And we're going to leave the floor open now, because it's quite an important subject today that we've just discussed. Right, the floor is open. If you feel that you're too shy to speak, you can actually just put it on the chat box. Then we will take the question and answers in the process. Okay, I think the first one. How do you overcome stress? The first one from Maxine, doctor, he said, how did you overcome stress, burnout, mental health challenges? That's the first question. How did you overcome
That's a great question. So firstly, I had to deal with the anxiety and the fear. And I'm going to speak psychologically now. I'm not going to speak about I did breath work, I did this, because these are all tools, right? I'm going to go straight to the heart of this. And as Dr. Sunny would know me, so for me, I couldn't sit still. I couldn't sit still and just read a book for 1 hour. Anxiety would be in my throat. My hands would start to shake. I would start to get extremely stressed. And I realized that, number one, my body didn't feel safe to be still. My body didn't feel safe to rest. It didn't feel safe. It was a very primal life and death sensation that came up. And that is because my nervous system was wired as a child. I always had to be on guard. My dad was so unpredictable that he would say one thing and he could go from 0 to 1,000, and you'll get smacked in the face and you have no idea what just happened, right? He was that unstable. He was always, of course, intoxicated. So my nervous system just said, no, we move, we go, do something that you like. Let's go into this, let's go into that. right? So I was constantly doing something. I wrote 19 books. I would write 2 books at the same time. I published 2 books on the same day. On Christmas Day, I didn't celebrate Christmas. I was working on Christmas Day, right? So I had to retrain my nervous system how to feel safe doing nothing, how to feel safe being quiet. I would have a full-blown panic attack when I would try to meditate. I couldn't handle sitting still and just trying to think of these thoughts, think of a waterfall. I'm like, God damn it, think of what waterfall? I want to have a suffocating attack right now. How can I think of a waterfall if I feel like I'm going to have a panic attack right now? So I had to meet that anxiety. I had to meet that fear. And I had to meet that 3-year-old nervous system and tell that nervous system that the threat is over. Because that nervous system never realized that the threat actually went away. Cognitively, we realize it. But your nervous system, that right hemisphere brain integration that happens before you are 3, that's complete visceral. That's completely somatic. All this stress was coming out even as I was an adult. And what makes this stress so incredibly frustrating to deal with is that it's not like you can just sit there in hypnosis and meditate back and figure out, well, this issue is that issue. This forced me to feel what I didn't want to feel. I hated feeling my emotions. And that's why I was so busy. That's why I was always working. That's why I always had something happening or going on in my life, because it helped me to avoid feeling. So I had to learn, number one, it's safe to be still. It's safe to feel my emotions, that it's not real anymore. So I had to learn positive affirmations where I started telling myself, this anxiety I feel right now, I am your boss. I am your leader. You are not real anymore. I actually had to learn how to build a dialogue with my body. And with breath work, with trauma recovery work, that is how I was able to beat anxiety. That was my personal process. And this is what I work with, of course, my students and my clients with as well. But it really truly starts with, why don't you feel safe to just take a step back from everything that you've become so obsessed over? That's the first question. It's a safety issue. Why do I say that? Anxiety is as an activation of multiple emotions, including survival responses. It's being triggered by either thoughts, environmental stimuli. We're having this full-blown biochemical response in the body. We feel these emotions, but they all very deeply layered into the subconscious mind. And it's normally because people struggle with disassociation. People who struggle, who have disassociation, they struggle with more anxiety. You would think that the freeze response, that fawn collapse that releases endorphins, is enough to help us to feel that numbness, right? That's why that numbness can sometimes feel so comfortable. But you have moments where you come out of that numbness. And what I see with all these thousands of people that I've counseled, when you come out of that numbness, that's when the anxiety comes, because you have the stress of not feeling anything. And then suddenly you feel everything. And then you have a full-blown panic attack.
Yeah.
That's why people can have panic attacks out of nowhere. You walk in the street, you feel fine, and then suddenly you just feel this drop in your emotions, and you're like, what just happened? Environmental stimuli triggered a deep buried subconscious memory in your body that you don't remember, but your nervous system did not forget, right? Having that full-blown biochemical response. And then we panic because the body says, danger, danger, danger. And you're looking around, you're like, where? There's nothing there. So now we panic even more because we can't find the threat. So it perpetuates, right? So that's why it's important when you learn to start to feel safe in your life again, very few things will rattle you. That to me is true resilience. I hope that helps. So that was a long answer, but I feel that was quite important. I think that was quite hopefully helpful.
If you need further information relating to this, fill in a form. You can reach out to Dr. Victor through our clinic. Okay, one says, what are some daily habits that could help somebody to prevent burnout? What daily habit would you
Excellent.
recommend?
Yes. So everyone, I'm going to teach you the alpha brainwave state. This is a brainwave state that specifically resets your nervous system. Are you ready? Okay.
Yes.
So it's 13 breaths. It's 13 breaths. The last breath you're going to hold as long as you feel comfortable. You will feel dizzy, but it's normal. You're just releasing a little bit of DMT. And it also helps to reset the nervous system, and you go into the alpha brainwave state, which is a very soothing, relaxing state to be in. And how we do that is we're going to breathe in the mouth and out the nose 13 times, okay? So by the 9th, 10th breath, you will get a little bit dizzy. So I'm just warning you, expect it. It's normal. It's perfectly normal. Are you all ready? I'll count with you. Okay,
Yeah.
nice deep breath in the mouth, out the nose. In the mouth, out the nose. In the mouth, out the nose. Breathe in the mouth, out the nose. Breathe in the mouth and 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 out the nose. Breathe in the mouth, out the nose. Breathe in the mouth and out the nose. Breathe in the mouth and out the nose. Breathe in the mouth and out the nose. Last deep breath and hold. Hold it as long as you feel comfortable. Close your eyes and drop into the dizziness, but welcome the silence that comes forward as well. Welcome it.
Mm.
Ease into it. Notice and feel how that silence and that stillness feels safe.
Sitting.
Very good. So this is one technique that I use during the day when things get a little bit too much. Another one that I absolutely love, which you can try later today, is to stand up and jump and shake your arms and legs until you are absolutely out of breath. Out of breath. Let me tell you, you're going to feel amazing because you just help your body to discharge of the excessive adrenaline and cortisol that is stuck in your body. You regulate your nervous system with that simple exercise. And let me tell you, I work with clients who normally have severe trauma with severe imprints on their nervous system. And these two exercises are incredibly powerful. Please don't underestimate the power of that. So I do hope that that helps.
Mm.
Thank you.
Fine.
Thank you so much, Evert.
Thank you.
I guess probably Pedro has a question. Pedro, if you can go, please.
It's not a question. It's just now complimenting the young lady. Fantastic presentation, and this is the first time I'm even getting this presentation very loud and clear. I mean, the microphone or whatever it is that she's using for our most very, very good. It's clear and nice.
Thank you.
So,
Oh,
and
that's
then,
wonderful. Thank you.
yes, and I find it very exciting that at 30, one would get so stressed. But
Yeah.
the good thing about it is that you had gone back. So I think, I don't know, is your healing coming from when you went back into your past time and remembered your dad and all that, and then brought it to your present?
So exactly. So what I did was I looked at, why am I so angry? Why do I love anxiety? Why can't I be the person reading a book on the beach? Why can they do that and I cannot, right? So I started asking these really big questions. And that's when I realized I had to backtrack. I was trying to deal with the issues in the here and now. I had to go meet these ugly emotions that I didn't want to meet by being so busy, right? So it was tough. It was a tough confrontation, but I had wonderful support. And as I decided that, as determined as what I was to be successful, I'm now going to shift that same determination towards my growth and my ultimate liberation of this grip of fearing being proven wrong and that I failed.
By the way, you're very gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. I'm actually 40, Don Pedro. It's lovely that you said this young lady. That's so nice. Thank you very much.
I think that contributes, the good looks also contribute to the healing of all the observers on the platform. So, Pedro, you're absolutely correct. Now, the question I have for you, Doctor, is this. Now, in terms of upbringing of our own children, what would you ask us to be really careful of? So what we say and what we do to our own kids?
Right. So did you all know that it doesn't matter how well prepared you think you are? When you are exhausted, when your life is out of balance, when your child is having a tantrum, you actually, when you reach that threshold, you actually divert back to your default. I don't know if you've noticed that. You revert back to your default, and that's the way that you were raised. You need to understand that when you hit that point where you feel you can't do this anymore, I have learned with my daughter that I had to change my way of how I would see her. She's 4 years old and I have an 18-month-old. She's just getting into her tantrum stages. You know, when you look at a dog that's barking, and it's barking because it's scared. It's not barking because of any other reason, and it's doing what it's designed for. And I know it's a very simple, basic explanation, but the point is, children are very much the same. They do what their body and brains and mind are designed for at that age. They don't have another capacity to show up in a different way. And this is where it's testing our ability to learn how to adapt to that. We need to learn how to become adaptable, because the problem why we become disappointed when things don't go the way that we want it to go with the child is because we have expectations. You're placing expectations on a 4-year-old or a small child that can't control themselves, just like that dog that's barking because he's scared. Instead of getting angry at the dog, let's practice compassion because that dog is barking because he's scared. You know, when you look at the 4 principles of Buddhism, one of them is expect sadness, expect happiness, expect failure, expect success, right? The contrast of life. If you have a child, it's the equivalent to training to stepping into a boxing ring. And when you get into that boxing ring and you get punched in the face, you can't act surprised. You can't act angry. You knew what you were getting in for. And I think for us to learn now to have different expectations, number one, that we place on a child will already lessen your frustration and disappointment and you feeling like a failure when the child can't manage the way they can't manage themselves the way that you want or need them to. These are one of the primal aspects that I notice and see in parents. And number 3, that child is going to make you feel the exact same way that they are feeling. When they're acting out, they're going to make you feel how they're feeling. So if you want to know what's going on in your child's world, look at how you're feeling in that moment. There is a beautiful genetic connection where cells communicate between each other. That's why a mother can feel when a child's in danger. You just know, you just feel something that is wrong. This communication channel is open as well. So be aware when your child is overreacting. Whatever you're feeling, they're feeling it too. So there's a barometer for you to learn and understand how they're also feeling. So now 2 people are feeling the exact same way. What are we going to do about it? So that's where we need to do the breath work. This is an excellent moment to do breath work. Alpha brainwave state right there. I've had moments where I would start to jump and shake my hands because I'm so lividly angry at my daughter because she's having a tantrum and I'm so angry. And the jumping helped to discharge the adrenaline that was triggered by this raging moment, and my nervous system can regulate itself and I can go back to thinking in a clear manner. So these 2 powerful exercises that I just explained to you, you can apply it in so many different areas of your life. But my biggest message for you is be mindful of the expectations that you place on yourself and your child, because that's normally what causes parents to flip that switch and become the child as well, right? So I hope that helps.
But yes,
Helps a
thank
lot.
you. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you so
Pedro.
much.
My question for you will be, what role does emotional intelligence play in managing stress and anxiety?
That's a really great question. So the emotional intelligence for me, hang on, let me just read that question. What role does emotional intelligence play? So for me, emotional intelligence comes back to self-awareness. So for example, I'm going to use myself as an example. I would say that my emotional intelligence, it was there, but my emotional intelligence was more directed to how other people are feeling. What can I do to make other people happy? I'm very sensitive to what I'm saying because I don't want to hurt them. Managing things, to always taking other people also into consideration. But I did that to my own detriment. So here, emotional intelligence can have a very powerful role, but it can also be to the flip side if it's combined with eustress. And you can actually now pull the short end of the rope as a result of that. Because if you are a peacekeeper, and you can be successful and still be a peacekeeper with certain key people in your life as well, because it depends what your association is for love. What is your association for praise? What is your association for attention? So when we look at these underlying core factors, they can perpetuate the fact that eustress becomes our new coping tool and way of life. And this can now influence our capacity for emotional intelligence to be able to shift that awareness to us. Because the energy is always going out. It's always about other people. So your mindset, your lifestyle becomes wired and programmed about being in service rather than being in service to you. So I needed to have a heart attack before I was able to selfishly, not actually even selfishly, it's my right to bring my awareness back to myself and strike that balance between being there for others professionally and personally. But good God, now I needed to look after myself. So that is what, for me personally, that's what the role of emotional intelligence played for me in managing my stress, was to recognize I'm suffering, I'm sinking, I'm going under. And to make that conscious choice to realize that I deserve a good life, and the life that I'm helping other people to cultivate, myself as well. So instead of being so overly focused on others, that same awareness, that same sensitivity came right here. Does that answer the question for you?
Yes, please. Yes.
Does that help?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Evan. I think Judith did make a comment. She said, probably during your presentations, she said, what do you mean by positive stress turning into anxiety?
So positive stress is like, for example, you're working on a project, right? So now you have this other team that's working also on a project and you're competing with each other. Who's going to finish first? So this is exciting. Why it's like, wow, let's go. Everyone's working together. We're excited. We can do this. So now if you have an underlying fear of failure because maybe you had trauma associated with failure, and that trauma is now perpetuating your stress, your eustress, and going, I need to fight now. This is not just about healthy competition. I have to win. This must happen. Because the anxiety is now stemming from that fear of what can go wrong if I fail. Your association with failure is now being triggered by an innocent, fun competition. And this is where and how eustress can transpire into complete full-blown anxiety. Because the underlying factor is being activated in that moment of eustress, because the eustress's foundation was not built on a healthy platform, was not built on a healthy psychological platform. Okay, that's really important to understand because that's what happened. Does that help?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Evita. All right. Anybody, any comment for the day? Any questions? I think Dr. Sunny, would you like to say something?
Yes, so I think it's been. My coffee is ready? Okay, just give me a second. Yeah, I think that was an amazing session for today. And what more can I say? And for additional information, you can actually fill in the form. And also, these are all going to be available on all our social media. So we'll take about 5 minutes break. Then we'll move on to our Today Entrepreneurship Program. And we're very grateful for Dr. Yvette, all the way from the
Indonesia.
continent of Bali.
Bali, yeah.
All
Thank
the way
you,
from
Dr.
Bali, who is speaking to us this
Yes.
morning right here in London. All right, I'll see you back in 5 minutes.
All
Have a
right.
great
See you in
day.
April, Dr. Sunny.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Evita, for coming today. Thank you for opening our
so much.
minds through the
Yeah.
powerful connection between all the emotional health and physical well-being. Thank you for coming.
Beautiful.
All right, guys, we'll take a short break and I will see you exactly after 5 minutes. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.